I'm about to give you further proof that the thousands of strange men being allowed to break into England via the Channel should be classed as a national security threat. Tomorrow, one of Britain's most prolific people smugglers will be banged up at His Majesty's pleasure after becoming the first person in this country to be convicted of trafficking migrants across the Mediterranean. This guy here, take a good look at him, is 42-year-old Egyptian Ahmed Ebid. He came to the UK in October 2022 on a dinghy with his wife and 12-year-old daughter. The family immediately claimed asylum here, despite Ebid having lived in Italy and, at one stage, being jailed there for 6 years for attempting to smuggle a ton of cannabis into the country. And because we're a soft-touch nation with no political will to protect our borders, several months after arriving in the UK, Ebid and his family were housed in an Art Deco-style block in the expensive area of Isleworth in south-west London. And there's the flat on your screen. If that wasn't bad enough, we then allowed an industrial-scale drug trafficker into the country, housed him at taxpayer expense. Wait until you hear what happened next. From that very taxpayer-funded home in London, Ebid masterminded a £12 million migrant smuggling operation in which around 4,000 people were transported to Europe from Libya on dangerously overcrowded fishing vessels. His victims paid around £3 each for those journeys and ended up landing on Italian shores. But the National Crime Agency believes many also eventually made their way to Britain. And Ebid, who had the nickname Captain Ahmed, of course he did, was eventually caught after the NCA linked his London-based mobile phone number to satellite phones that were made distress signal calls to the Italian Coast Guard when migrant vessels began sinking in the Med. It came after a tip-off from the Italians in 2022. The very same year, Ebid arrived in the UK to claim his free house and benefits. The NCA placed him under surveillance and even bugged his London home. Officers listened to his phone calls where they realised Ebid was acting as a virtual skipper and arranging for 600 to 700 migrants to be placed on flimsy fishing boats that had maximum capacities of less than 100. The crossings he engineered took place between October 22 and April 2023. And in one phone conversation, Ebid banned migrants from taking mobile phones on board dinghies and said those who did would be killed and thrown into the sea. At least 2 bodies were found in one of the boats rescued at sea by Italian authorities. This is the calibre of person Britain has been welcoming into the country with open arms. This is the kind of person the do-gooder charity workers are pandering to at Dover and at migrant hotels without any thought given to the native British population who are being forced to share communities with them. This is the moment NCA officers finally arrested Ebid near his London home in June 2023. They read his rights to him in Italian.
Just listen to me carefully. Se ne arresto da questo a 14:49.
Tomorrow, Ebid is expected to be handed a lengthy prison sentence when he appears at Southwark Crown Court in central London. We all know our prisons are at maximum capacity, so I don't know why we're even bothering to jail him here at vast taxpayer expense when we could just send him back to Egypt. And no doubt once his sentence is finished, he'll be allowed to stay in the UK anyway, won't he, under ECHR rules that give him a right to a family life. What a joke. But what's more pressing is the need to finally, once and for all, class the small boats invasion as a national security emergency. Nigel Farage called for that very thing at PMQs this week.
The Prime Minister agree. Now is the time to declare the situation in the English Channel as a national security emergency.
Yeah. Right, let's get the thoughts of my panel now. The founding chairman of Global British Centre, Aman Bagal, political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and the former Labour Minister, Bill Rammell. Good evening, panel. Welcome along. Chloe, ladies first, we'll start with you. This is a jaw-dropping case. He arrived as a small boat migrant, was given benefits and a home in London at taxpayer expense, and then within weeks started his own people smuggling operation, also while living the life of Riley in London. Why are we such a soft touch?
I mean, I feel like we've just got such a weak political class, and this man has cost the taxpayer a huge amount of money, not just for himself. I mean, there are plenty of people in this country who would love to be able to afford a flat in London, but instead live somewhere else or commute in for hours and hours because they can't afford it. It's not just him that's costing the you know, the bills coming from, all of the people that have arrived in Britain as a consequence of his smuggling and his actions, they're all costing the taxpayer a load of money. They'll all be up in hotels and being given money from the state. So we shouldn't be paying to put him up in jail. He should be sent off. And I don't care, to be honest, if it's not the safest country for him. What he has done is horrendous, and no doubt he's got blood on his hands for people who have died on the crossing where he has smuggled migrants across.
Yeah, I think 19,000 people, not all under his crossings, but 19,000 people have died on that trip from Libya, Tripoli, Benghazi to Italy. So no doubt he has got blood on his hands.
Yeah, people think the British crossing the Channel is the dangerous part, but actually it's going across the Med, where that sea is like a graveyard. It's horrifying.
Aman, is Nigel Farage right? It's time to declare a national emergency. Is this the way of dealing with these small boats crisis?
Indeed. I agree absolutely with Nigel. I've been saying for the last year that this is already a national emergency. Since 2018, we've had more than 150,000 illegal dinghy-wallahs break into Britain and over 35,000 under Starmer. Now, my question is, how many more Ahmed Ebids have broken into Britain in the last 4 years? How many more of these people are there that are smuggling in jihadists, criminals, and people that simply shouldn't be here? I mean, look, the biggest issue here is, first of all, the ECHR, yes, it holds us back and we need to be out of it. But my bigger question is, look, we have been presenting the world with the world's second largest international aid budget for a very long time after the US. We do not owe any single person coming from anywhere in the world a safe haven. We have enough issues of our own to deal with, and that's what we should be doing. All these people who talk about safe and legal routes, no, we do not owe the whole world safe and legal routes. We owe our own people safety at home.
Yeah, Bill, of course, this happened under the Conservative government, but as Aman pointed to there, the Labour government now isn't doing much to improve the situation. So is it time to declare a national emergency?
Well, look, it sticks in my claw that this guy was able to do this. However, I welcome the fact that he's been arrested, he's been convicted, and he's likely to get a very, very lengthy prison sentence, rightly so. In terms of calling this a national security emergency, I think, frankly, that's a political stunt. The government is already effectively doing that by legislating to grant enforcement powers, counter-terror style powers, to intervene and disrupt the gangs. That's actually happening. The legislation is going through Parliament. And with respect, you know, Ben, when you say but he'll probably be able to stay anyway.
Well, he will be, won't he? Let's not kid ourselves.
Hold on. One, Brexit has stopped us sending him back to Italy. And, you know, the Shadow Home Secretary actually admitted as such in a leaked recording this week. But I certainly hope as soon as he's put in prison, the Home Secretary seeks to move heaven and earth to deport him from this country. But, you know, the European Convention on Human Rights, one of the very welcome provisions in the immigration white paper, is reframing Article 8 to stop some of the egregious examples of that provision being abused on human rights grounds.
Look, we are infested with activist judges who let people stay in this country for what? Chicken nuggets, because...
Bad haircuts.
And that's the very piece of legislation the government is proposing to amend.
And do you think those activist judges will implement the legislation?
Judges have to abide by the law.
As long as we are in the ACHR, nothing will change. These people will continue to say we have a human right to family life in this country. We have seen tens of thousands of such cases. They're not going to go anywhere until things change.
Why don't we just kick this guy out, Bill? Why don't we just send him back to Egypt? When our prisons are full, we're not building new prisons, we're letting paedophiles such as Hugh Edwards walk free. And by the way, I'll mention her again, Lucy Connolly, banged up for a tweet for 2.5 years. Why don't we just send this guy back to Egypt?
Well, you've got to take it a step at a time. First of all, he's got to be sentenced. He'll be put in a British prison. Then I hope the Home Secretary will move heaven and earth to deport him from this country. And, you know, I make the point again, and, you know, you're going to shout me down, but deportations are up under this government.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. They're up by about 30%.
Not of the people that need to be deported. I feel like there's just
OK, so we're moving the goalposts. The numbers are up.
No, the vast majority that are up are people that are being paid $3,000.
No, it's not the vast majority.
We've only had about 6,000.
Criminals have been removed from this country.
6,000. That's not a huge number. 24,000.
Well, it's 30% up. You know,
6,000 is not a huge number. 24,000, on the other hand, have gone home being paid £3,000 each by the British government.
Look, the reality is, unless you stop the massive inflow of people arriving at our shores, no matter how much you try to increase deportations, you're going to have a huge issue.